Send me someone just like him, Lord. I know some of you are praying for me right now. I can just get this. If I wasn't like this, if I wasn't sick, if I didn't have this, if I didn't grow up here, then I would get to where I need to be. And I need you to understand that what needs to change is not your possession, but your perspective. It's not what you possess that needs to change. It's the perspective you have on what you already possess that needs to change. If you would start believing what God has said about you and believing what God has for you, it'll change what you actually do in the world. I believe that this could be fundamental to our understanding of who we are and how we behave. We want to look at the life of Moses today as we look at him, because I believe that Moses goes through what often you and I go through with God when God says something about us that we think is utterly, lack of a better word, foolish. God says something that you're going, God, I disagree. I don't quite understand what you're saying about me. We're looking at Exodus chapter 3, but before we go there, I want to give you some background information. Before we get some background information, I want to pray for you. Because I believe often we hear these messages, but only the Holy Spirit can make it click. We hear it, but if we truly believed it, embodied it, embraced it, it would change the habits you have in your life. It would transform the attitudes you have in your relationships. It will move you away from who you used to be to who you need to be. But I believe the reason why we sit and we hear and we don't change, the Bible actually talks about that. The Bible talks about people who are always around the truth but denying the power of it. And it talks about that in this generation. The Bible says that in the last days there will be people that will always be around truth, always be around information without it creating transformation. And that the only way you can actually do that is not if the speaker is great, but that the Spirit of God's involvement in your life is great. Amen. And so I want to pray with you even before we start, because I think this is too important for us to just kind of get through this. I want to make sure you understand, because the questions Moses has are the questions you and I have. And if we could hear God's answer for ourselves, it'll transform how we move in the world. Let's pray together. Holy Spirit, I know I'm not even worthy to be the vehicle through which you speak. The same God that knocked on Moses' door knocked on my door at the age of 17. And you told me, do not be afraid, I will put words in your mouth. And so that's the same promise I claim today. And I ask that your power will speak into the hearts of each person in this room, the hearts of those who are online, the hearts of those who are watching this later on. I pray that God will speak in such a clear way, and that the power of your Spirit will take away every distraction right now. Amen. It will remove anything that keeps an obstacle in front of us from becoming who we're meant to be. God, that you would empower us to be the people you've dreamed of. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. From the time he was born, Moses knew something was different about him. From the time he was born, he had one side of the family telling him that he was an Israelite and that he was born for something great, that God had protected him, that out of all the babies that were thrown in, that were given away, that were kidnapped, that were killed, somehow you made it through the Nile in a basket. Imagine hearing that story. That somehow God rescued you out of all the people. That's the story I heard. From the time I was a kid, my mother told me, you're lucky to be alive. My mom turned 50 years old yesterday. When I called and I said, Mom, your gift is coming, she said, my greatest gift is that you're alive and you're working for God.
Amen.
Because no one could have told me this is where you'd be in life. From the time I was a kid, my mom said that when she had found out she was pregnant with me at a young age, she actually took poison to kill me and her. And that God rescued her and God rescued me. Moses heard all his life that he should have actually been dead. that it was the grace of God that kept him. So in his heart, he had it in mind that somehow he was special, but he couldn't see the special. He knew he was in the palace. He was living life as a normal, royal, wealthy, young kid. He had everything as everyone. He had the best education, but something in his heart was missing. You know that feeling where you think you've got all you want, but something is lacking? All the things you thought you would need, you have, but you still want more. And so Moses grows up in that environment. He understands the best, and he has the best information, the best knowledge, going to the best schools. He's being trained for future royalty, but he doesn't want the destination that's given him, because something in his heart says you're meant for greater. And so he grows up. And one day it says that as he's had these understandings, as he's had the training from the time he's young, he's had the training from his Hebrew mom that told him, you are meant for more. But then he had the training from the princess that says, you're next in line. You're meant for more, you're next in line. Somehow he said, I don't know what's going on, but there's something in me that hates how they treat those people. And so he's walking one day and he sees one of the Israelites. He knows deep inside, I'm an Israelite. Although I live in the palace, I really belong with the slaves. And so he goes over, and one of the slaves are being mistreated. One of the servants are being mistreated by an Egyptian. And he goes out to try to stop it because he knows he's meant for something great, but he doesn't know how to go about it. There's something in him that makes him discontent with the way things are. That's how you know God has a purpose for you. When you are disgusted by the status quo. When everyone else seems to think that we're okay and mediocrity is okay, and somehow you go, this cannot be, this should not be. That's when you know God has said, I've chosen you for something. That's when you know that it doesn't make sense for you to stay where you are in your comfort zone. Because if I stay in the palace and wait for my turn at the crown, then I will never get to where God wanted me to go. So he goes and he tries to stop it. And in the midst of stopping it, he has some issues, you know. Just because God gave you passion doesn't mean he's taking away your weaknesses. There's something called being immature and called. See, he's got the passion, but the passion is turning into anger. And so he goes for a little conversation, turns into a big brawl, ends up killing an Egyptian soldier. And now he's got problems. He's walking around, but he's got problems. He's haunted by his actions. And then it says that the next day he's going around thinking everything's great. And now he thinks, watch this. You know what I love? When the people you're trying to help turn against you. Anyone else can raise their hand and go, the folks that hate me are the folks that I'm trying to help. The folks you're trying to help are the ones who turn against you. So all of a sudden, he's talking, he sees another Israelite going against another Israelite, and he goes, guys, brothers, come on, we can't be doing this. This can't happen. And they go, whoa, buddy. Who do you think you are? Who made you judge? I love it. They ask a question that God will answer 40 years later. I love it. You know what's so funny? Is that God sees you for who you are now, even though no one can see it in you. No one can see it in you. And the problem is, he told you who you are, so you start acting on who you are, but no one else has seen you be there yet. You're not the king yet, David, so go get bread and cheese and bring it to your brothers. Joseph, I know you've had dreams that your brothers will bow down to you, but right now, all you got is a technicolored rainbow coat. You ain't got nothing, brother. So who do you think you are that we're going to bow down to you? See, God will pronounce who you are before he declares who you are later. Before the appointment, comes the announcement. And sometimes there's a huge gap from the announcement to the appointment. So you're struggling to keep up with God, and everyone else is going, where? Just slow down. Calm down. So Moses now finds himself in a pickle because they tell him, who made you judge between you and I? Wait. Are you going to do to me what you did to that Egyptian? Word is out. The word is out. Reputation messed up. His entire political career is in trouble. You know what I love? I call it a divine disturbance. When God will mess up your comfort zone in order to get you to where your destination is meant to be. You're comfortable somewhere, you think you love it, God's going to pull it right under you so that he can get, because look, he's been telling you to move and you don't want to move. So okay, I got you. I'll do for you what you can't do for yourself. I'll pull you away from your comfort zone in order to push you to where I've called you to be. Because without me, you're going to stay there. Because who doesn't want a comfortable place? Like, who doesn't want to just be comfortable? Look, like, I ain't got to do much. I hate this job, but I ain't got to do much. You know, come in, get my 9 to 5, I walk out, no problem. Doesn't matter that I could be creating change somewhere else. Doesn't matter that I could be used somewhere else. This is where God has me. Even though God's been telling you, move. Yeah. But what I love about God is that even though you might forget what he said about you, he never does. What I love about God is that even when you've given up because you've listened to the wrong voices. Remember last week we talked about the voices? Because you've listened to the wrong voices, even when you've given up, he's never given up on what God has said. What God says is fine. His calling, Paul says, is irrevocable. That means if he said something about you, you might forget, but he won't. He'll come getting you. Remember, see, Moses now, he runs away, goes into the desert, spends 40 years in the desert. Sometimes God has to spend time undoing what you did. Spends 40 years in the desert. And he's out here in the desert, and he becomes a shepherd, and he's living life. He thinks, this is great. I'm doing okay. God will bless your via point. Let me help you. It's not your destination, but it's the way you get to your destination. And just because he's blessing your via point doesn't mean you're meant to stay there. See, you're here right now, but that's not where you're going to be. Joseph was blessed in the prison. He became the head warden of the prison. Although he was a prisoner, God blessed him in his via point. Joseph was blessed at Potiphar's house. That's not his destination. That's just his via point. But God blessed him there too. Sometimes you're being blessed, but it's not the destination you're meant for. It's the place you're meant to go through. You know what David says? Even though I go, what? Through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Because he knows I'm not staying here. This is where I am right now. That's not where I'm going to be. You might have left me in prison and forgotten me, but God remembers me. What God said about me will become a reality with or without you. God will bless your via point. I remember I was in special education. I went to Andrews. God had told me I was to be a pastor. Went to Andrews, started doing seminary. I was looking at all these theology classes, and I'm going, man, this is crazy. My heart's for ministry. My heart's for ministry. I want to do ministry. And then I go, can't find a ministry because what? I don't have a president who's a father. I don't have an uncle who's in the conference. I don't have anybody that I know. So everybody, look, I'm going graduating cum laude, and folks that got C's got a job. And I'm like, I should have just, went through. Like, I know you failed that class, but here you are, you got a job. And listen, I'm going to God, you forgot about me. I'm mad at you. How can you do this to me? I remember I said to God one day, my mother was telling me, be patient, be patient. I said, no. He don't let me get all these student loans. If he knew he wasn't going to give me a job that would pay for it, he should have let me go to community college. went to private school, $30,000 a year, and now you're not going to give me a job? Come on, man. It's mad. Got a job as a special ed teacher. Now, I love special education because I'm a product of special education. Most of you might not know. Y'all think I'm normal. Most of you who know me know I'm not normal. But God, here's the reason why you have to go through the veil point is because it's through the veil point you get healed. Most of us are trying to run to our future without dealing with our past. Yeah, you see, God had to make me go teach special education so I can be redeemed from special education. Yeah. The person teaching saw the kid he used to be and had to be patient with the kid he used to be. But God will never forget you. I remember I sat down and I was teaching special education. I was being blessed. I was getting Employee of the Year award. I mean, all my kids who had failed the state exam over and over again, passed with me. People were going, man, parents were requesting kids to go to my class because the kids were saying, he cares about me. Of course I cared about me. I used to be you. So I was more patient with you. And when kids couldn't get it, I would create songs so they could get it. I would spend day after class. I would teach economics using Monopoly. I bought a Monopoly board for all of my kids for Christmas. Parents came to me, he never plays anything with us. Now he loves this. How'd you do it? God was blessing me in my viewpoint. The school came to me as a private charter school. They said, look, we will pay for your master's at Johns Hopkins. The woman who was in charge of our school, her husband was the head of the special education department at Johns Hopkins. He says, we will pay for your master's free of charge. We want you. Same time, in me, God said, I called you to be a pastor. So I'm going to school every day, being blessed in my viewpoint, but I feel empty. I love what I'm doing, and God is blessing me in what I'm doing, but I know God called me for something else. It was my viewpoint, it was not my destination. So Moses is in the desert. He's enjoying his viewpoint. He's got a wife. Everything's working well. He's doing well for his father-in-law. Everybody's happy. You got a great thing going on. And all of a sudden, the same thing, a light bulb goes up in my mind. And the light bulb says, you're meant for something more. You've got to move on. I started reading a book. Reading is bad for you. Reading is bad for you. Reading is bad for you because when you read, you get information, and now it pushes you to move on that information. So I was reading a book that says, if you want to walk on water, you got to get out of the boat. I said, Lord, have mercy on me. And I tried to avoid it. I remember I was on Wednesday night prayer meeting. They made me say, Pastor, do you have anything to say? You know, I love it. I love it because, I grew up in my church and they all knew I studied theology. Even though I was in pastor and nobody, they called me a pastor anyway. And so they said, Pastor, will you have anything to say? And as I'm speaking, what's funny is this. As I'm speaking, I profess what God has been talking to me about. What I love about it is that I didn't mean to say it, but I said in my sermon, I'm about to resign as a teacher because God's calling me to ministry. And at that time, I had been volunteering at Washington Adventist University and working for free. So I was about to leave my full-time job to go help for free in ministry. But had I never helped, I would have never met the conference president that called me to Bolingbrook Church. If David never went to bring bread and cheese, he would have never fought Goliath. You got to listen to the viewpoint. When God starts working in your life, you got to hear it. You got to listen to it. So God does something in David's life in which, look what he does. In actually Moses' life, look what he does. He goes up and he starts burning a bush that doesn't burn. And Moses remembered all his science class at the palace. And he goes, that should not be. That should not be. This doesn't work this way. Something's up. So he goes up to the mountain. He meets there in the mountain. God says to him, wait, hold up. Where you're standing is holy ground. Take off your shoes. Moses goes, whoa, what's going on? Now it was burning. Now it's speaking. What's going on? What's going on? Okay. He gets there. Moses hears this voice and he says, look, I'm God. I've been hearing the cries of my people. That thing that's been keeping you awake at night, knowing you left your people in slavery, that thing that's been bugging you has been on my mind too. What's been painful for you has been painful for me. What's been keeping you up has been keeping me up. I've heard the cries of my people, and I'm going to change the world through you. I'm going to change the world through you. I'm going to rescue my people through you. And Moses goes, what is going on here? Exodus 3 verse 11. Look what Moses asked. Look what Moses asked. Moses asked a series of questions that you and I asked. He said, Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Who am I? That's the first question you and I ask. Who am I? Why me, God? Do you remember my past? Do you remember my pain? Do you remember the fact that I was the murderer? Do you remember who I used to be? Do you remember what they said about me? Do you remember? And God says, look what God says. God says, and God said, I will be with you. Who cares who's against you if God is for you? I will be with you. And this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. God said, look, the sign that you're going to make it is that you'll make it. Listen. You'll know that I sent you because despite all odds, your worship on this mountain we're talking on, I'm sending you out into an impossible situation. But you'll know I'm the one that did it because you'll be standing right back here. Amen. Worshiping. Folks, the remedy to war is worship. You've got some battles. You need to learn to wake up early in the morning and worship God. You got some difficulties, you better stay on your knees at night and worship God. You've got a difficult, listen, you're going through something. Paul and Silas were in prison and they started worshiping God. You've got to worship God in the circumstance so that your circumstance can know your God is bigger. Amen. Your God is greater. God says, look, you're going to worship on this very mountain. Moses says, so that's why you chose me. You chose me not because I'm anything, but because you're something. So who are you? Who are you? Okay. Who are you? Listen. Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God said to Moses, you want to know who I am? I am who I am. What God was basically saying to Moses, I am the very thing that caused things to exist. I am the cause of the uncaused cause. I'm the thing that causes things to exist that has always existed and nothing ever made it exist. I am who I am, meaning Moses, no matter what you lack, I can make. I can create, and look, I'm going to give you some resumes. And he says, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, that's his name, the God of Abraham, resume number 1. Remember that lying brother that didn't know how to talk about his wife, always talking about, that's my sister? And I rescued him? That's who I am. The God of Isaac, remember that brother was sitting there, nice little kid, but he never thought he was anything. He was always fighting with his brother Ishmael, remember him? But he thought I had forgotten about him. He thought Ishmael had taken his place, and I said to him, what I've chosen, I've always chosen, and I made him the person he was meant to be. Remember him? Isaac, he had given up on himself. It was me. Remember Jacob, that deceiver, that liar, that cheater? You remember him? You remember him? He had forgotten. He had forgotten that I told him, Jacob I loved, Esau I hated before he was even born. You remember him? That's me. everything you've ever heard about, I made it happen. And if I did it before, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. He says, this is my name forever. The name you should call me from generation to generation. God says, I have never stopped being God, and I never will stop being God. I have always been, and I always will be. Moses goes, okay, I got you, because we like asking questions. You know, we get from questions to questions. So Moses goes, okay, so you told me who I'm me. You told me who you were. But what if no one believes me? What if no one affirms me? What if I don't get any support? What if my vision sounds so stupid that everybody walks away from me? What if I have no one to go with me? He telling me to go to the very people who hated me. What if they don't believe me? Moses answers, what if they do not believe me or listen to me and say the Lord did not appear to you? 2:4, then the Lord said to him, I love it. Then the Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? Moses asked the question, what if they don't believe I am who you said I am? And God says, what do you already have in your possession? Listen. This whole time you've been using this staff in your via point, I've been training you to use the staff because that's the very thing I'm going to use to liberate these people. The thing you picked up in your misery will become the thing you use in your ministry. The thing you didn't think much of is the very thing I'm going to use. What's in your hand, Moses? It's a staff. That's all it is. Because sometimes you can't see what God sees. He replied, the Lord said, throw it on the ground. Moses threw it on the ground and it became a snake and he ran from it. Then the Lord said to him, reach out your hand, take it by the tail. So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake and it turned back into a staff into his hand. Listen to this. When I let go of the thing I possess and give it to God, God takes it and makes it great. I tell people all the time, see, God had called me to be a pastor. I didn't think I could do it. Teaching seemed to be easy. God was blessing me with that. And actually, when I went to seminary, I didn't even go study ministry. I was doing an MA in religion because I was going to teach. I said, well, I can't, those who can't do what? They teach. So I was doing an MA in religion. I was going to teach. I'm going to change the minds of the future pastors so our churches can get better. And so I was going to teach. And God says, I called you to be a pastor, though. I was 6 when I first heard you're going to be a pastor. I was Catholic when my uncle, who's also a staunch Catholic, was insulting me by calling me an Adventist pastor. 8, 12, over and over again, you're going to be a pastor. I never believed it. Because in my mind, what do I have? But here's what I had that I didn't know I had. So from the time I was a kid, I was annoying. Some of the staff might say, you're still annoying. I talked too much. I talked a lot. And God said, the thing that annoys people will transform people. What's in your hand? There is something God has placed inside of you that you've been using for yourself. And God says, I want to activate it. You don't need to be enough by yourself. You can't be enough by yourself. But in God, you already have everything you need to accomplish what God has called you to. Amen. He's giving you the passion, and He's also giving you the tools. All you have to do is throw it on the ground. Let God use it. Give it up. Throw it up. Give it. Say, God, here I am. I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. But God, I trust that if you said I could, I can. And if you say you've chosen me, then there's nothing that will stop me, because nothing is impossible to you. What's in your hand? Because whatever it is, that's what's going to make people believe. God sent you. Remember Moses didn't ask how would they know who I am. Moses' question is how do they know God's going to send me? Everybody who knew me since I was a kid goes, I know it's God that's using you. Why? Because they knew who I used to be. And they're going, there's no way this is the same Jose I grew up with. It has to be God. You keep wanting God to use your strengths when the passion and the purpose is in your weakness. Because it's when I am weak, I am strong. So my question for you is simple. What's in your hand? as a part of a response, you can invite someone, you can connect with someone, and you can give to the church.